Avi Loeb, who directs Harvard University's Black Hole Initiative and is one of modern astronomy's most controversial figures, perceived something that the mainstream scientific community has desperately sought to rationalize. What if this wasn't any comet? What if we were observing a spacecraft? Let that absorb. This isn't speculation or pseudoscience we're discussing. We are discussing observational data, confirmed by NASA, analyzed by the James Webb Space Telescope, and documented by the European Space Agency. We are discussing an object that has shown behavioral anomalies so deep that experienced astronomers worldwide are admitting in private that conventional explanations just don't fit. The scale of the object itself is staggering. Estimates place 3I Atlas at a width of somewhere between 1 and 2 city blocks, roughly comparable to the physical footprint of Manhattan. Its speed is even more breathtaking. Through our solar system, it is traveling at a speed of about 42 kilometers relative to the Sun, or 193,000 becquerels if you prefer. This is no gentle visitor. This is a projectile, aimed with cosmic precision. Just over a week ago, on October 29, 2025, 3I Atlas hit its perihelion, its nearest approach to the Sun. At that time, it was moving at 68 kilometers and passed within 1.36 astronomical units of the Sun, wedged exactly between the orbits of Mars and Earth. This is the detail that counts. This is the point where the official story begins to crumble. Here is where things get genuinely strange. As 3I Atlas neared perihelion, NASA's instruments, combined with observations from the James Webb Space Telescope and ground-based observatories such as the Gemini South Telescope, found something that shouldn't be there. The object accelerated, but not from the Sun's gravity. This acceleration was non-gravitational. It was controlled. It was directional. Based on data from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the non-gravitational acceleration of 3I Atlas showed two separate components: a radial component pointing away from the Sun, and a transverse component that pushed the object sideways, which effectively increased its orbital energy. These components were not chaotic. They were not the random outburst of a sublimating comet. They were structured, continuous, and aligned in a manner that defied all statistical symmetry a natural, outgassing comet ought to produce. But there is more, much more. When the James Webb Space Telescope aimed its near-infrared spectrograph at 3I Atlas on August 6, 2025, it recorded something that changed the conversation fundamentally. The object's spectrum was off, totally off. It revealed a composition and a behavior that failed to match any comet in our known observational catalog. The diatomic carbon signature was present, which gave the comet its typical green color. But the intensity, the timing, the distribution of these emissions, all of it implied something much more complex than simple ice and rock. Consider what we usually see with comets. They dim and brighten based on predictable mathematical formulas. As they get closer to the Sun, the brightness is expected to increase roughly as the fourth power of distance, a ratio every astronomer knows. 3I Atlas, however, broke that rule. Its brightness ramped up with a slope of roughly 7.5 plus or minus 1. This isn't a small anomaly. This is almost twice as steep as the most active comets we have ever documented. What could be the cause of such an anomalous brightening curve? Avi Loeb has suggested an answer that the mainstream media has both ridiculed and declined to refute directly. What if the increase in brightness isn't just from solar heating, but from an internal power source? What if the outgassing we're seeing isn't the product of melting ice, but the deliberate venting of gases from an artificial propulsion system? In his recent comments to Indian news outlets and during his discussions on big platforms like the Joe Rogan Experience, Loeb methodically laid out the evidence. The non-gravitational acceleration, the anomalous color shifts. The object changed hue twice during its approach, showing behavior totally inconsistent with an inert, passive celestial body. The extreme rate of brightening, the precise alignment of acceleration vectors inside the orbital plane, rather than scattered randomly as one would expect from asymmetrical outgassing. And then you have the color itself. When viewed through different wavelengths, 3I Atlas showed a brightness that suggested an internal heat source generating light, or reflecting light from an abnormal source. Not the cold, reflected sunlight one would expect from a comet. Something active, something intentional. Here is the detail they are not addressing publicly with the transparency it deserves. NASA did confirm the non-gravitational acceleration, but they immediately ascribed it to what they term a major outgassing event. This is the official story. Comets outgas. Comets create thrust via momentum transfer. This is planetary science 101. Case closed. Except, there's an issue. The outgassing hypothesis demands a visible debris plume. It demands that we see a significant loss of mass, with ejected material forming a visible tail that alters and grows as the comet nears perihelion. The Gemini South Telescope did document the tail on August 31st. By that day, it had reached a length of around 56,000 kilometers, or roughly 35,000 miles. By September 15th, the dust tail visible had extended to roughly 100,000 kilometers. These are real measurements. These observations were peer documented by multiple institutions. But then something strange occurred. As 3I Atlas got to its closest point to the Sun, the very moment when outgassing should increase dramatically, something shifted. The tail grew hard to observe. The anticipated debris plume, the huge visible proof of a comet losing mass and creating thrust from that loss, became less apparent than anyone could have predicted. And that isn't even the most bizarre part. On November 8, 2025, scientists from China released images acquired by China's Tianwen-1 Mars orbiter, showing 3I Atlas at an extremely close range during the time when telescopes on Earth were blocked by the solar conjunction. The images revealed something peculiar. The object's structure wasn't uniform. It showed what can only be described as features, geometric sections that hinted at internal organization, rather than the irregular, amorphous shape of a normal comet nucleus. This is without precedent. Consider what this means. Every comet and asteroid we have ever seen, from Halley's Comet to the asteroid Ryugu, displays a relatively random, irregular form. They are ancient, battered, and shaped by random thermal stress and impacts. But what if an object was engineered? What if it was built with purpose? You would then expect to see structural organization. You would expect to see features implying intentional design. NASA has not provided a detailed commentary on these Chinese images. In fact, the lack of a response from NASA is in itself a data point. For weeks, Avi Loeb has highlighted that crucial information is still classified, unreleased, or under review. Images that could definitively resolve whether this object is artificial or natural are held behind bureaucratic walls. The official story presented by mainstream astronomers is this: 3I Atlas is an interstellar comet. It was thrown out of another star system billions of years ago and has been drifting through the interstellar medium ever since. The non-gravitational acceleration is just outgassing. The strange brightening is just an unusually active comet. The color shifts are variations in composition as different ices sublimate at varied temperatures. Everything they maintain can be explained with conventional physics and chemistry. But Avi Loeb, drawing from his experience analyzing Oumuamua 8 years prior, sees it differently. His point is not that this is definitively alien technology. His point is much more subtle and much more threatening to the status quo. He argues that we simply cannot dismiss the possibility without looking at all the anomalies together. As a pattern recognition is a skill humans excel at. We see faces in the clouds. We see agency in random events. We see order in chaos. Scientists are aware of this tendency and have created rigorous statistical frameworks to guard against it. But there is a problem. When many independent anomalies all point in the same direction, when the chances of natural explanations happening all at once become vanishingly slim, pattern recognition transforms into evidence. In his Medium post and public interviews, Loeb offered a calculation. The chances of a single interstellar object showing all of the following at once: non-gravitational acceleration at perihelion, anomalous brightening with a slope steeper than 7, color shifts indicating repeated heating events, geometrically organized surface features, and a flight path that brought it within 29 million kilometers of Mars. The chances of all this being a coincidental outgassing from a random comet are 1 in tens of millions. Let that sink in. By December 19th, 2025, only 5 weeks from now, 3I Atlas will make its closest approach to Earth. It will fly past us at approximately 167 million miles, a distance we can study and measure comfortably. But in the months before that approach, something vital will occur. The debris plume will either grow more visible, as predicted by standard cometary outgassing models, or it will stay suspiciously absent. The object spectrum will either keep showing the typical fade of an inner comet, moving away from the Sun, or it will show more evidence of active internal processes. Avi Loeb has stated publicly that the data gathered in the next few weeks will be the deciding factor. Either 3I Atlas will behave like all comets in history, confirming it as a natural object, or it will do something that astronomers have no framework to explain. And if that occurs, if the data keeps showing anomalies, we will then face a question that no quantity of academic credentials can make comfortable. What if we are being visited? Consider the implications of that question. For decades, scientists such like Carl Sagan posed the Fermi paradox. If life is teeming in the universe, why have we not found any evidence of intelligent civilizations? The typical answer has been that the universe is just too large, that intelligent life is just too rare, that the distances are just too vast. But what if the answer is different? What if civilizations do visit and we have just been too dismissive, too comfortable in our own theories to see the evidence when it shows up? The James Webb Space Telescope is set to conduct ultraviolet spectroscopy on 3I Atlas in November. The Hubble Space Telescope will carry out additional observations meant to find the precise composition of the object's gas emissions and its sulfur-to-oxygen ratio. These readings will tell us if we are seeing a standard cometary composition or something anomalous. Meanwhile, in December, right after 3I Atlas's closest approach to Earth, the James Webb Telescope will make another set of observations as the object moves away from the inner solar system. These observations might be the final word. They might settle the question, or they might deepen the mystery even more. Here is the thing that troubles the scientific establishment above all else. Avi Loeb isn't demanding we accept the alien hypothesis. He is demanding intellectual integrity. He is asking that we pursue the data wherever it goes, that we avoid dismissing anomalies just because they are inconvenient or uncomfortable for our current theories. He is asking that we recognize the limits of our own knowledge and stay open to possibilities we have not yet considered. 8 years ago, when Loeb first suggested that Oumuamua might be artificial, the reaction was almost universal ridicule. Scientists labeled it pseudoscience. Journals turned down papers that examined the hypothesis seriously. And yet now, after years of more observation, we have found that Oumuamua did, in fact, show anomalies that defy conventional explanation. The scientific community did not alter its position. It just moved on, stopped discussing it publicly, and hoped the controversy would go away. This time, the data is coming in more often, from more sources, and with more precision. This time, there are high-resolution images. This time, multiple space agencies are gathering concurrent data. This time, we cannot hide behind a lack of data. We can only decide whether to look at what the universe is showing us honestly, or to look away. The coming months will be absolutely crucial. By December 2025, the situation will be clearer. Either 3I Atlas will fade into the history of ordinary comets, and the scientific community will have been proven right in its skepticism, or the object will keep showing behavior that cannot be reconciled with conventional explanations, and we will move into uncharted intellectual territory. In that situation, mainstream science will have to face an existential question. Do we change our frameworks to fit the evidence, Or do we keep rationalizing anomalies until they vanish from the public's conversation? Avi Loeb has spent his career challenging scientific orthodoxy. He has been wrong sometimes and right other times, as all scientists are eventually. But this cannot be disputed. He is asking the right questions. He is following the data, and he is refusing to take easy answers for hard mysteries. The universe is sending us a signal. Whether we listen is our choice. By December 2025, we will know more. The observations will grow. The debate will intensify. And somewhere in the great darkness of space, 3i Atlas will pursue its inexplicable journey through our solar system, carrying with it secrets we are only now starting to ask the hard questions to investigate. What comes next will define not just our understanding of this single object, but our whole conception of our place in the universe. And for a species that has forever wondered if we are alone, the answer to that question could be arriving much sooner than we ever anticipated.